know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Hello and welcome to the program. We're so glad to have you with us today as we explore the latest effort to end the conflict in the Middle East, as well as pleas from Venezuela. We've got the details, but first, here are the latest headlines. Vladimir Putin approves the use of nuclear weapons against non-nuclear states if they're being supported by nuclear powers. The move comes on the 1,000th day of Russia's war on Ukraine. Russia's Vladimir Putin to visit India. The Kremlin confirms Putin's visit without announcing the official dates. Putin last visited India back in 2021. Canada foils an alleged Iranian plot to assassinate former Justice Minister Irwin Cotler. The 84-year-old Canadian has been a strong critic of Tehran's human rights record throughout his career. Hong Kong's High Court jails 45 out of 47 pro-democracy activists for up to 10 years for taking part in the 2019 anti-government protests. The United States and the United Kingdom condemned the ruling, calling it the erosion of people's freedoms in Hong Kong. Ecuador declares a national emergency as the Latin American nation struggles to contain wildfires and water shortages. Authorities say forest fires have destroyed over 24,000 acres of land and thousands of crops. And the Department of Justice plans to request a judge force Google into selling its Chrome internet browser. The move comes after the tech giant was accused of illegally monopolizing the search market. Google Chrome controls over 2/3 of the market for internet browsers. We begin in the United States, where President-elect Donald Trump has confirmed that he will in fact use the U.S. military to conduct mass deportations of illegal immigrants. In a social media post, the president-elect positively responded to a conservative commentator who said Donald Trump would declare a national emergency and use military assets for his deportation program. On the campaign trail, Trump repeatedly vowed to crack down on illegal immigration by carrying out the largest deportation in American history.
They're sending prisoners, murderers, drug dealers, mental patients, terrorists. The worst of every country is coming into our country now. They're coming from the Congo, Yemen, Somalia, Syria, all over the world. They're coming. They're country changing, country threatening, and they're country wrecking. They're destroying our country. They're destroying, we can drill and we can get the oil going, but this is a tough one. We're going to end up with the largest deportation in American history. We have no choice. Have no choice, right? Have no choice. We have no choice because that's not sustainable by any country.
The incoming commander-in-chief has at multiple times gone as far as to call for the death penalty for migrants who kill Americans or police officers.
And I'm hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer.
The president-elect also said he would end parole for people coming from Venezuela, Cuba, Haiti, and Nicaragua within the first 100 days of taking office. Donald Trump could also end the policy that prevents deporting people who are not deemed a threat to public or national safety. Trump has already started taking steps to fulfill his immigration promises. He's tapped South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem to lead the Department of Homeland Security and former Immigration and Customs Enforcement Chief Tom Homan as his border czar. And from inside the White House, Donald Trump's longtime advisor Stephen Miller will act as his deputy chief of staff for policy. Miller played a huge role in crafting several controversial policies during the first Trump administration, including the Muslim travel ban and the family separation policy. However, experts believe Donald Trump's anti-immigration hopes will face enormous logistical challenges. The Immigration and Customs Enforcement boasts a staff of 20,000 people, which simply won't be enough to track down millions of undocumented migrants. There will also be financial constraints as well, which the president-elect says will not deter his government plans. Data shows that more than 11 million unauthorized migrants currently live in the United States. During his first 4 years in the White House, Donald Trump was able to deport more than 1.5 million people, both from the border as well as from U.S. territories. Even with vows to involve the U.S. military, there's still, however, no guarantee Donald Trump will manage to succeed in deporting more than 10 million people. And moving to the Middle East, Lebanon's government and Hezbollah have agreed to a ceasefire with Israel, a proposal put forward by the United States. A top Lebanese official says Beirut has delivered a written response to the U.S. ambassador in Lebanon in hopes of stopping the Israeli military operation in the country.
Lebanon presented its comments on the paper in a positive atmosphere. All the comments that we presented affirm the precise adherence to UN Resolution 1701 with all its provisions.
This comes after the Lebanese prime minister said in an interview that his government had agreed to much of the proposal and was seeking clarification on some additional points. Meanwhile, White House envoy Amos Hochstein, who's been in talks with Lebanon for quite some time, landed in Beirut on Tuesday for face-to-face discussions. Hochstein, in his previous visit, pushed for a United Nations Security Council resolution, a path that was also used to end the previous war between Israel and Hezbollah back in 2006.
As President Biden said, our goal is a comprehensive agreement that implements UN Security Council Resolution 1701 and ensures this conflict is the last for many generations. 1701 was successful at ending the war in 2006, but we must be honest that no one did anything to implement it. The lack of implementation over those years contributed to the conflict that we are in today.
The UN resolution requires Hezbollah to have no armed presence along the Israeli-Lebanon border and the Litani River, which runs around 30 kilometers or 20 miles north of the border. The Washington-backed proposal aims to achieve a 60-day pause in hostilities between Lebanon, which Lebanon believes could have a lasting impact. However, Hezbollah says that the ceasefire now purely depends on Israel, which is yet to comment on the agreement. Meanwhile, Lebanese citizens say they're tired of the war and hope the conflict between Hezbollah and Israel ends soon.
There must be solutions soon, God willing, a ceasefire, and people return to living in peace and tranquility. We are tired of this situation, especially now that we are heading into winter. Things will be difficult for us. We hope that peace prevails over all of Lebanon, and we all return to living together, with no distinction between religions at all. And this is what every human being certainly hopes for.
Now Israel is trying to subject the Lebanese state to conditions that were rejected in 1982, and they know what these conditions are. The state has stood with the resistance through Prime Minister Najib Mikati and Speaker of Parliament Nabi Berri, and their position was steadfast in support of the resistance, and this angered the Israelis. Now it will shift from a war against Hezbollah and the resistance to declaring a war against Lebanon.
Now, conflict between Israel and Hezbollah has escalated in recent days, with Israel pounding Lebanon while Hezbollah fires rockets targeting Israeli military bases every other day. Now, it remains to be seen if Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu agrees to the proposed ceasefire, and if he does, will the truce guarantee a full stop to the deadly conflict? And now we move to Venezuela, where opposition leader Maria Machado, who galvanized a strong anti-government coalition, has gone into hiding, fearing political targeting from Nicolas Maduro's regime. Speaking to the New York Times, Machado said she remains in Venezuela while her party's presidential candidate Edmundo Gonzalez is still in exile in Spain. Machado and Gonzalez contested the July 28th presidential election against Maduro and were declared losers in a highly contentious race. Several nations, including the United States and Brazil, have dismissed the electoral results and asked for a recount. However, Machado now says that she has lost all hopes of Maduro loosening his grip on power. Affectionately known as the Iron Lady for her steely resolve, Machado said she wants President-elect Donald Trump to oversee the ouster of Maduro. Machado even praised Donald Trump's selection of Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. Machado and Rubio have known each other for decades, and the Venezuelan believes that Rubio's previous anti-Maduro stance will carry forward to the second Trump presidency. Machado added that she's been in constant contact with Senator Rubio's team. And now it's worth noting Maduro had frosty relations with Donald Trump during the Republicans' first term, and this time Maduro is worried that he could be staring at more sanctions and mass deportations from the United States.
In your first government, re-elected President Donald Trump, we did not do well. This is a new beginning, so that we bet on winning. Winning, and it goes well for the United States. It goes well for Venezuela.
Now, in a strange turn of events, Maduro praised Donald Trump and Elon Musk in an attempt to ease tensions.
Director of the economy. That's a new position I'm going to create. Just as Trump created a position over there for a person like Elon Musk in the United States. Following Trump's example, I'm going to create a new position here. Economic Efficiency Rector. Rector of Quality and Production. You like the position? Well, good. It is approved.
Meanwhile, thousands of Venezuelans continue to criticize Maduro and his regime for cracking down on dissent and taking no action against skyrocketing prices of basic goods.
Sometimes you go to look for merchandise, and it is not the same price. One tries to survive at least because the dollar is going up. And regarding the economy, people try to buy the most basic things right now, the most necessary things, because things are not easy. If sales are so-so, a vendor can earn between $30 to $40, but it is quite difficult. At least this week, we have had no sales.
Now, it's unclear whether Maduro's regime knows the whereabouts of Maria Machado, who now awaits Donald Trump's return to the White House in hopes of seeing change in Venezuela. World leaders have congregated in Brazil's Rio de Janeiro for the ongoing G20 summit. However, President Joe Biden, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni missed the group photo. The White House has issued clarifications and blamed the incident on logistical issues. However, social media has exploded with memes and theories. Our next report explores the controversy.
The G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro delivered high-stakes diplomacy, global power plays, and a bit of comedy. Against the stunning backdrop of Sugarloaf Mountain, world leaders gathered for the traditional family photo. But among them, 3 leaders were missing: US President Joe Biden, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Biden, along with Trudeau and Meloni, arrived late, only to find the photo already been taken. Left to awkwardly huddle together, the 3 leaders then clicked a picture of their own, which the outgoing US president later posted on X. Now, even though the White House blamed logistical issues, social media didn't buy it. Memes and conspiracy theories flooded the internet, speculating whether Biden's absence was deliberate, perhaps to avoid standing near Russia's foreign minister Sergei Lavrov, or just another unforced error. Several critics even called it an embarrassing misstep for Biden, who is wrapping up his presidency with diminishing global influence.
This is my last G20 summit. We've made progress together, but I urge you to keep going. I'm sure you will, regardless of my urging or not. This group has within its power to usher in a new era of sustainable development, to go from billions to trillions in assistance of those most in need. This all may sound lofty, but this group can lay the foundation to make that achievable. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the rest of our discussion.
However, this wasn't his only stumble. Days earlier at the APEC summit in Peru, Biden was shuffled to the back corner of another group photo, while China's Xi Jinping commanded the central spot. The White House claimed the placement was alphabetical, but it fueled comparisons to Donald Trump, who stood proudly center of 2017's APEC photos. Canada's Trudeau wasn't spared from criticism either. His late arrival alongside Biden mirrored his struggles to command respect on the global stage. Keen social media observers even noticed how the Canadian leader kept avoiding eye contact with the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, terming Trudeau the unpopular kid that nobody wants on their team. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's absence, while less scrutinized, quietly highlighted her contrasting low-profile approach. Meloni, in fact, praised India's growing global influence and the strategic partnership between Italy and India following her meeting with Prime Minister Modi. She took to social media and described it as always a great pleasure to meet her Indian counterpart. With Donald Trump set to return to the White House in January, the summit was Biden's final act on the G20 stage, a chance to cement his legacy. It instead became a symbol of diminishing power and awkward moments. While world leaders looked to the future, Biden seemed to be struggling to keep up. As the curtain falls on Biden's presidency, his final G20 appearance left a lasting image, but probably not the one he intended.
And finally, tens of thousands of protesters marched towards New Zealand's parliament on Tuesday. They opposed the treaty principles bill, calling it a threat to Maori and indigenous rights. Since the bill was introduced last week, it triggered one of New Zealand's largest protests in decades. Last week, a Maori lawmaker tore up the bill in Parliament and launched into the haka, a traditional Maori dance. Our final report examines the flashpoint between indigenous New Zealanders and the government.
The battle for Maori rights has reached the doorstep of New Zealand's Parliament. Tens of thousands of protesters, 35,000 strong, are rallying in one of the country's largest ever demonstrations.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that we're not giving away what was taken away from us, you know, what's left of what we have in our culture and in our people, you know.
They have gathered to oppose the explosive Treaty Principles Bill, a proposal many say threatens to tear apart decades of progress on Indigenous relations.
It means everything. This is what our parents fought for, this is what our grandparents fought for, to maintain our cultural integrity.
The protest was a breathtaking display of unity and defiance. Thousands chanted, "Kill the bill," as ACT leader David Seymour stepped out. Flags of the Maori nation waved, traditional songs filled the air, and a powerful haka, a cultural war cry, shook the ground. And then emerged New Zealand's youngest MP, Hana Raufati Maipi Clark. Standing upright, she spoke with confidence, declaring, "No one can mess with their rights and sovereignty."
And we will never ever have to decide who can mess with our rights and our sovereignty as an Indigenous people here in Aotearoa. We are the kingmakers, we are the sovereign people of this land, and the world is watching us here. Not because of the system, not because of the rules, but because we haka.
The demonstrators then presented a petition with at least 203,653 demanding an end to what protesters called a divisive attack on Maori rights.
Congregation, the gathering of the day, is in regards to authority on the land. Māori, we have an order to serve the lands, to serve Papatūānuku. It's our job to protect Papatūānuku, the land, and we have congregated as a people because decisions from the parliamentary arm have distorted the pathway for Māori.
But Tuesday wasn't the first time the bill sparked fury. Last Thursday, Parliament itself became a battleground. Te Pāti Maori MP Hana Raufiti Maipi Clark electrified the chamber with her defiance. She tore up a copy of the bill, seeking to narrow interpretations of the Treaty of Waitangi, a founding document signed in 1840 between British colonizers and the Maori tribe. Standing tall, she performed a fierce Maori haka in front of stunned lawmakers. Her protest inspired opposition MPs and spectators to join her, their unified roar shaking the chamber. Although the bill has almost no chance of passing, its mere introduction has triggered one of New Zealand's largest protests in decades. Critics warn the Treaty Principles Bill would erase decades of policies aimed at empowering Maoris who already face higher deprivation, incarceration and health disparities.
We want peaceful protests. That goes back to Parihaka in the 1800s. You know, a peaceful land occupation and protest that was broken by government forces. We know that when we walk together, we are expressing the peace that we want to be a personification of what this nation is, a personification of how we can work together.
Now, even though Maipi Clark was suspended that day, the message was already loud and clear. It's too late to divide the community. As New Zealand stands at a crossroads, the nation is watching and Maori voices refuse to be silenced. The Treaty of Waitangi is not just a document, it's a promise. And the fight to uphold it is far from over.
That's our show for today. We certainly thank you for tuning in. We hope to see you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks everyone for watching. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you